Hi everyone, my name is Jason Thistlethwaite, and I'm from the Balsillie School of International Affairs at the University of Waterloo. My research focus is on the politics behind the financial sector's response to climate change. More specifically, I'm trying to explain the emergence of various best practice standards that govern climate change risk in the insurance, accounting, and banking sector. I've recently contributed some of this work to some policy work done at the Center for International Governance Innovation on the impact of the financial crisis on environmental politics. And next week I'll be in New Orleans at a conference presenting my findings on the insurance sector's response to climate change. Let me begin by saying I'd like to thank the CIC for inviting me to take part in their e-conference on energy and the environment. Their efforts will no doubt prove a valid contribution to debates on foreign policy and climate change. I'll now go through some of the questions to be discussed at the e-conference and offer a brief take to stimulate some discussion, but also some feedback, but also to stimulate some feedback from participants to address any weaknesses in my analysis. So the first question asks, has concern about the consequences of climate change been over-exaggerated? Based on my research, I would argue that no, the concern about the consequences of climate change have not been over-exaggerated. Specifically, based on my research in the insurance sector, which has a market incentive in collecting data on the economic damage from climate change, these concerns have not been over-exaggerated. In fact, many insurers see climate change effects as a source of potential bankruptcy for the entire sector, as damage claims increase from these same effects. Weather-related losses now routinely exceed the predictions made by many insurance models. For insurers, these effects are by no means the big catastrophes, such as Hurricane Katrina, but small, overlooked effects that add up to a sort of a death by 1,000 cuts scenario for the sector. For example, hailstorm damage in the U.S. Midwest due to an increase in the severity of thunderstorms in the last decade now routinely exceeds the insured losses from 9/11. The second question asks, how much influence can Canada have post-Copenhagen? I was at COP15 in December, where Canada routinely won the Fossil of the Day award. Although I believe that a successful international treaty ultimately depends on some sort of political consensus between the U.S. and China, Canada can still have an impact in the post-Copenhagen era if we choose to do so. Canada has the potential to become a giant experiment in developing renewable energy. Our diverse geography gives us many advantages in developing these kinds of technologies. But considering our current political climate, our main contribution will continue to be de facto support of whatever the U.S. decides. The third question asks, who are the significant winners and losers within nation-states as a result of climate change? At the subnational level, most of the winners from climate change will be firms and community that have taken leads in developing renewable technology and adaptation strategies. In North America, I think several regions, including the Northeast U.S., along with Quebec and Ontario, are trying to position themselves to take advantage of the economics of climate change. Similarly, BC and U.S. West Coast are trying to do the same. The big losers from climate change are populations in developing countries, where the impacts of climate change will be significantly disproportionate without some sort of technology transfer from developed countries. But low-income populations in developed countries will also be on the losing side as they face higher energy costs. The fourth question asks, to what extent, if any, should Canada align itself with U.S. climate policy? Because our economies are very integrated in places such as Central Canada, Alberta, and BC, some degree of harmonization is inevitable, specifically in terms of putting a price on CO2 via cap-and-trade or a carbon tax. But I think Canada can also take a lead through other policy means that exceed efforts in the U.S. FeedIn tariffs, for example, for renewable energy, have proven to develop a robust market in places like Germany. BC and Ontario are already applying these tariffs to stimulate renewables. If Canada wants to compete for the green energy market, we'll have to offer better incentives in the U.S. to compensate for their advantages and just the size of their economy and the economies of scale that they can develop down there. The fifth question asks, how should Canadian companies diversify their energy exports beyond the U.S.? As I mentioned earlier, Canada has a great geographical advantage in developing renewable energy technology. If we exploited this advantage, we should be able to produce a diverse array of renewable energy technologies that can accommodate and appeal to any market with unique geographical qualities. We've already dumped enough subsidies and tax breaks on the oil sector to gain a competitive advantage in the U.S. market. Why not take these same taxpayer dollars and create a national feed-in tariff so all regions could take advantage of their unique geographical qualities in producing renewable energy? I think there's a strong risk that if we don't start competing on this front, not only will we be buying our tea source from China, but our green technology as well. Well, that's my brief take on the questions, and I look forward to discussing these questions and more during Thursday's e-conference. Thank you for your time.